howdy, y'all. That's plural for everyone, in case you don't sprechen Sie deep south. I read this translation in Wikipedia.
Yeah.
All y'all. But since I'm a Yankee at heart, I thought I should explain that. For our writer's side chat today, I'm hanging with extraordinary author and dear friend Judy Howard. And not only is she a prolific writer, she also teaches writing seminars all over the U.S. So we're honored to have you, Judy. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you so much, Gene. It's a pleasure to be here.
Judy's impressive array of published works range from an intensely personal memoir to an autobiographical novel to a mystery romance to entertaining stories that deal with serious issues like post-combat traumatic stress from a service dog's perspective, to a young adult novel and a hero's journey from an adventurous cat's perspective. All in all, a total of 6 books published with a 7th on the way later this year. Whoa, did I get that mostly right, Judy?
Well, pretty much, yes. You nailed it, Gene. Thank you. I like your stress on the perspective of the dog and the cat. Very cool.
Okay, well, and it's unusual because my listeners and readers tend to be interested in the allure of the obscure, and I would say that you and I probably both qualify for that moniker. Okay, well, first, I know you and your writing partner live in your RV, and I can see that in your background. We first met in Chandler, Arizona a few years ago, as I recall, where you were conducting a writing seminar, and that started me on my own literary journey, so I thank you for that. I know our time is short, so I'll be brief. I just have a few questions for you, and I do appreciate the opportunity to ask them. So first of all, Judy, home is where you park it, I understand, like us people who tend to live in RVs now and then. Where are you located right now? And can you say a few words about your live-in partner along with your relationship?
Okay, yes, I'm in Florence, Oregon right now. Beautiful weather here. I love the coast. So that's where I'm at today. I leave tomorrow and I'm going across the street to a national park and to enjoy more of this nature. And the relationship that I have is with my cat. And I'm hoping he doesn't interrupt this interview. He's sleeping right now somewhere here in the motorhome, but he does have a tendency when I get on phone to demand attention. So let's hope we get through this without his presence.
Well, maybe we'll be blessed with a cameo appearance. You never know.
Yes, yeah. Everybody, I know my readers will be thrilled because they're more in love with him than they are me.
Oh, I doubt that. Well, you both are robust with personality. So.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so you have some of the greatest stories. I remember you sharing a few with me when we got together over lunch one day. But just for the sake of making a blip in the weirdo meter, let me ask you, who is the absolute weirdest and most wonderful person you've met in your travels who you felt was a kindred spirit?
Well, an excellent question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before, Gene. Thank you. So I really had to think about that. And I mentioned Paul Reiner. Do you know who Paul Reiner was? Paul Reiner owned a bookstore in Quartzsite, Arizona.
Yes.
And what was unusual and weird about him was the only thing he wore was a big hat and lots of heavy turquoise jewelry for necklaces and a little knitted pouch that covered his private and concealed his private parts. And that was what he wore. He was a nudist and he owned this bookstore and he was the main attraction. He opened his bookstore to other authors so we could come and do book signings there. And I always like to do that because with him being the main attraction, we got a lot of traffic into the store. So he was the weirdest one. And when you combine being weird with the idea of a kindred spirit. I can only say I didn't know him really well or personally, but only as an author and an artist. He was a tremendous artist, as well as having the bookstore, and a tremendous musician. And I feel that as far as kindred spirits, I seem to feel that I have a connection with all people in the arts since I began writing. We all are weird. What can I say?
Yeah.
So yes, he died in last year in 2019, and he will be missed. And but it was great to be a part of his production at the bookstore.
Oh, that's wonderful. I only met Paul once. It was a few years ago when we were in the courtside area, and it happened to be a very cold day. Uh, and of course, he had his top hat on, or some kind of flamboyant hat, and his junk mobile. Um, but and he had this heavy muffler around his neck.
Yes.
Yes. And you could see goosebumps all over. But he was a performer, and the show must go on, right?
Yes, and I think what made him stand out in my mind, besides the nudity, was the fact that as artists, we have to make ourselves vulnerable to be great. People only love people who are vulnerable, it seems like, and people loved him. And I always strive to do that in my writing, as far as being me and not some fake person. So he was definitely an icon.
Yeah, and that concept of authenticity, that so shows through in our writing, does it not?
Yes, whether we like it or not, which is why some people quit, because they can't do that. I really think that's why some people stop writing, because
Mm.
they can't put themselves out there. It's very challenging to do that.
And and you're right. It's a real risk, and sometimes it's an emotional risk, and sometimes it can be even a physical risk. On a more serious note, Judy, I'd like to ask you, what do you view? And I have my own feelings about this, but what do you view your artistic obligation, if any, to others and to yourself? You touched on that a little bit, because I suffer with that quandary all the time, and it's hard for me to keep my focus on what I believe, the purpose that I feel I need to exercise with my writing. Does that resonate with you in any way?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you have to have some sort of obligation. For so many years now, I've been writing 10 years now. And before that, I was doing some RVing. And I suppose what has happened all through these 10 years or more is, when people meet me, they say, you are an inspiration. And I first thought it was kind of silly, but it's been repeated over and over and over again. And so my obligation is not only for me to be a better person than I was yesterday and to be inspiring, but I want other people to realize that should be their goal in life, is to become better than they were yesterday and more tomorrow. And the reason I think I shine so much, as far as people just love me, and I'm not being egotistical when I say that, but I is because I am vulnerable, and I am inspired, and I am open and authentic. So I would like others, everybody else in this world, to realize that the stranger that you see walking down the street or on the park bench is a person who has lived a life, and not be afraid, but be ready to take on new challenges. Now, I really wandered around with that, didn't I?
No, no, no. It's that You know, that's you being authentic, for crying out loud. And and just let me say this about that. You don't have to be egotistical because you have people that love your work and that love you and your authenticity. That means you have a fan base, and let there be no doubt. Judy Howard has a fan base.
Yes,
You know,
she
people
does.
who love your work. So that I love that you're humble about that, but I don't have to be. Some have suggested that this is a pivotal moment in human history, certainly in the history of our nation. And I do not want to descend into the quagmire of politics or anything like that, but
Right.
from a humanistic standpoint, would you agree? And if so, why? And if not, why not? And just share a few of your thoughts, because I think our listeners and our viewers would love to hear that from you.
Well, pivotal says it all. Anybody who doesn't think this is a pivotal time must be gone.
Yeah.
I believe that during this time we have been forced to give up all that we have believed in, and we're not safe anymore. Americans especially, I believe we've been so comfortable about our lives to the point of apathy. And I'm excited about this time in life because now we no longer know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk about before about being inspired, I suppose the reason I'm an inspiration to people is because I do things that I'm afraid of doing. I've driven a Mario Andretti race car. I've done things that scare the shit out of me, and now everybody's in that situation. So there's going to be such magnificent changes coming about through all of this. But to do that, it's going to be very, very uncomfortable. And that's what everyone, including me, is going through. I'm very uncomfortable when I go out in public as to what I'm going to encounter. I'm not afraid of the virus. I'm more afraid of the tension and the stress that people are feeling, and that's really going to kill them if they don't learn to deal with it. So that's kind of my take on it is, yeah, we're all shook up, as Elvis would say, but we're not shook up. We're shook up over fear. And wouldn't it be better if we were all shook up because we were in love with one another? So as cheesy as that is, that's what I want to envision our future through all of this when it's changes. It will never be the same.
I love it. Yeah, and it's like we've all been forced to hit the reset button, and
yes.
Now we have to reevaluate what. I'm an old computer guy. What software we're going to reboot with as we come back online, and it's it's frightening. And you know, as an old scuba diver and skydiver and motorcycle racer, at one point in my life, I thrived on fear. Or adrenaline, if you will. So and now but this is a different kind of fear. This is visceral. This is global.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but you know what we've learned is we are not in control. And I believe up until this point, we thought we were in control, and that could have been the furthest thing. We never have been in control. We just imagined that because life is unexpected. You know.
Yeah,
sorry.
It was an illusion of control.
Yes.
One of the things that I've thought a lot about lately is we're off the road right now, more because of we're saving our pennies to get the bus that's behind me repainted and
beautiful
and refurbished, replenishing the cruising kitty, as we used to say when we were voyaging sailors. This is the first summer that we've spent in Florida for over a decade, and now we have. It's only a stage 1 hurricane, yes. Piece of cake, or the Canadians say can of corn. But it's hot and it's humid here. But you know, it's not so bad. You know,
it's a moist heat, as where in Arizona it's a dry heat.
yeah. And you know, we spent in Arizona a couple winters ago, and when we spend summers up in Minnesota to visit the grandchildren and all of that, which is delightful. It gets pretty humid up there too, and pretty hot.
Yes, it does.
So we're kind of used to the humidity, but that low 15-20% humidity in Quartzsite and Tucson and Phoenix area, that's
well,
do you find it unusual when you migrate out of the desert or Southern California?
Well, I tell everybody I have a 70-degree route that I travel, and a certain time line that keeps me out of humidity, out of hurricanes, out of hopefully tornado. I'll go to Florida, but only in November after November 30th, because that's the end of the hurricane season. So I try not to be in weather that I don't like. Let me just put it that way.
That's good. You've got a 70-degree line. We have a snow line.
Yes.
We don't mind cool weather. We don't mind hot weather, but snow, not so much. I don't want to have to deal with that, especially with that monster behind me. You know, it's precarious, especially when you get up into a high mountain pass or something like that, where the weather can change in an instant.
In a minute, yes.
You said a few words alluding to this, but I understand on your that on your business card, it also bills you as a motivational speaker.
Yes.
Could you say a few things about that? And one of the things that I found particularly appealing was when you make in-person presentations, you present yourself very well. And you said something to me one time that you said you like to, correct me if I'm getting my stories mixed up, but I think you told me that you like to make the rounds of small towns and libraries and things like that. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yes, well, I suppose I've gotten a little disillusioned with Amazon, and I met another author who just has a route where he goes to libraries in small towns and bookstores and sells his books physically, one-on-one, But as a motivational speaker, I mentioned earlier about how people kept telling me that I'm an inspiration. And I believe we should be listening to the signs in our lives as to where we should go. Everybody's looking for their purpose. And 80% of the people, they say, are disillusioned with their jobs and trying to find their way. So as every time somebody says that to me, I'm thinking I should go further than this. And I know I've been a motivation for you. Oh my God, you've taken off after your seminar with me. You scare me.
Oh, bless you, my dear.
It's just amazing, and I'm so proud of you. But so I wanted to become more than just inspiring authors. I remember the first book I held in my hands. I had no idea. I had never even thought of becoming an author. So when I held my first book, I cried. I couldn't believe I had done this. So the signs just kept coming, and I wanted it to become take it more, my inspiration to more than just authors, to anybody out there, because we all have dreams that maybe we feel like we're never going to fulfill. And I want people to know that whatever it is you're dreaming, I want you to realize that nothing is impossible. And by God, I was a dog groomer all my life. I had never thought about writing a book. And look at me now. I mean, I have working on my 7th book, and I'm living a life that I just love. I want people to do that. And we're at a time right now that because they're not working, they have so many opportunities to try something else. And I say, it excites me that this is all happening as it is. So I put motivational speaker on my business card because I wanted to be a TED speaker, but I was afraid. I was afraid to get up and call myself a motivational speaker because I thought, who would want to hear me? I'm 74 years old. I don't have a lot of money. I have a humble little motorhome. I don't have an MFA degree. So all of those reasons, I thought, who would want to hear me? And I decided, you know what? That's the main reason I think I am an inspiration. And so I'm taking those things that I thought were a disability to me and using them. And I just, like I say, there's so many ways that people can become alive again. And that's what I want to do. So did I answer your question? So I put the motivational speaker on the card because I was so afraid to be one. And so then when I would hand somebody, and I had even forgotten I'd put it on the card, and I'd hand it to somebody and they'd look at it and I says, oh, and you're a motivational speaker too. And I go, oh God, I felt like such a fraud because I hadn't done it, but I was scheduled for my first motivational seminar in Tucson, Arizona in March when the virus hit, and they had to cancel it. And I thought, well, what kind of sign is that? But anyway, there was a part of me that was relieved, but I wanted to do it so badly, you know. So anyway, so I have not spoken as a motivational speaker per se, but it will be what it will be. I believe everything happens exactly as it's supposed to happen. So whatever ride we're on, I'm for it, you know.
Well, thank you. You know that you can no longer say that you've got it on your business card and you haven't done it because, my dear, you just did.
Yes, well, thank you.
Well, I think we're about out of time. I just wanted to say once again, I'd like to thank you, Judy, for being my very special guest today. Do check out Judy's website at judyhowardpublishing.com. And you can find links to all of her books in the newsletter that this recording will be a part of on gkjurans.com. So don't forget to look out for Judy's next novel, which is Truck Stop, right?
Yes, Truck Stop.
All right, wonderful. And one last reminder, thanks again for being here, and do me a favor and visit Judy's website and check out her books. And she's got such an array of marvelous titles that you're sure to find something that will hook you and grab you. So with that, thanks for watching. And Judy, thank you again. So until.
Thank you very much.
So until and wherever, as is always my tagline, adios, compadres.